connecting the data suppliers all the way to the end to the data consumers. So we would just like to encourage the proliferation of more people being compensated for recording interesting data. And I think a lot of that will occur when data insurance becomes a thing. So if you can start insuring data feeds, you can use those premiums to compensate people all the way down to the IoT devices, or people putting weather data devices out in Puerto Rico and seeing what the wind speeds are. So that's, I can just speak to that, but I think competition is usually the best way.
For me, the position of sitting here is easy because we're not competing with you guys in any way. Our goal is to make data available, and that will of course benefit all of you. There's two aspects to making data available. One is building the infrastructure that can be used to hold and transport that data, but the other aspect is incentivizing people to share data, to make it available. Like, it doesn't magically become available. The person needs to choose to make it available, and in there we can work on stuff like adding possibilities to monetize your data and so on. So data will become much more flexible and much more available compared to the current siloed situation that exists today. And I would assume that probably for you guys, the typical use case is to fetch data from some web API and then transport it to a smart contract. But the web API is another silo. It's vulnerable to DDoSing. It doesn't give you guarantees about the origin of the data. You can prove that it was fetched from that API, but not beyond, right, down to the individual user or IoT sense or whatever. And this is something that we are hoping to enable for you guys.
Thanks. I think collaboration makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, from the perspective of the end user, they're going to probably want, in many cases, to use multiple oracles, in my opinion. And even if they don't want multiple oracles, they're going to need a framework to understand what an oracle's quality is, right? The oracle is such a critical piece of how a contract ends up working that there's going to need to be a framework that describes this oracle is reliable, this oracle is less reliable, and this oracle is unreliable. And that framework is going to have to be presented to the user to show them, you know, this is how much you can pay for a more reliable oracle with these features, with these guarantees. This is how much you can pay for less reliability. Maybe you get less reliable oracles, but more of them. Maybe you get more reliable oracles, but fewer of them. It's not completely clear how that's going to evolve. I mean, from my perspective, I think the thing that makes sense is that the space comes to some idea of, this is what defines a reliable oracle. This is what a user should consider to be capable of reliably triggering their contract, right? So that's, I mean, that's part of what we're working on, but that's why I have this belief. But at the end of the day, I think what will evolve is there will be multiple entities that provide oracles, and there'll just be a way to choose among them on the basis of industry standard design patterns. That, you know, this design pattern provides me certain guarantees. Here I am going to buy these oracles.
Excellent. So to follow up on Mariano's suggestion of having like a public discussion on this, I think there are already some EAPs being discussed, and also within the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance there are some discussions going on. However, they just cover the needs of like some parts of like the work we are currently doing. So what my previous question wanted to somehow trigger, and I think I failed on that front, is trying to understand like how many components the oracles in general have, if we had to abstract them out, and like on which of those components our projects were mostly focusing on. I think we can follow up on this discussion later. We don't have time for questions, maybe for a very quick one from the audience. very quickly. Thank you.
So is there anyone that's going to be the consumer reports of these data sources that will help a lay consumer make that choice? If I'm going to pay extra to get a more reliable data set, somebody's going to have to be the judge of that, yeah.
I guess that's why many of the systems here propose some kind of incentive mechanisms, but maybe, yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's what Chainlink seeks to do. We seek to make an open source impartial framework that is community driven around how do you define what a reliable Oracle is, and then make a network where anybody who wants to participate as an Oracle operator can provide a service as an Oracle operator, as a company, as an individual, whatever, and then their performance, their security guarantees are all assessed and represented to end users. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I think this is also strictly tied to your previous comment on the fact that we don't know yet how much people and applications are willing to pay to get data. At the moment, I think on public blockchain, Oracle is probably the most widely used, and right now most clients already complain for a cost of 5 cents. So we don't know yet. Probably if this is in few years still the case, there is not probably much space for punishing oracles which are not behaving well, but time will tell.
Well, in the case of our oracles, everything is open source, the smart contracts, the software we use for each operator to push the prices. So if you just know what you're looking for and read some documentation, you can actually go back 2 years and look at block per block per block of what the prices were, if they were correct or not. And we've seen people come up with their own assessments and say, like, during the first couple of months, they were saying, hey, they were so shitty. And I said, yeah, okay, that was just like my computer running them, like, before we were even live, right? So give me some slack, cut me some slack with that. But after that, they became, like, very reliable. So if everything is on the blockchain, you can, at least the data, you can easily verify if it's correct or not.
Yeah, it's the same for us, and I'll just make this quick, but we have all of our Oracle data going back, and people can look at that and make their own assessment. We also provide tools to look at the data sources we're going to provide for whatever custom Oracle you need, and see into the reliability of that underlying data. We can provide models to predict, like, whether it will misreport in the future. And then I think also insurance will make it easy for the lay user. If a data feed is insured, then all you need to know is what your damages are and purchase a contract with a premium that matches those damages. And then it's as simple as buying insurance. You don't need to worry about any failure of data.
Yeah, as we've discussed here, not all data should go to the blockchain, only kind of aggregates or validated values when needed, which raises the question of how to select the raw data sources, where it comes from. And you can have various tactics there to kind of leave it up to the community to discover via different kind of reputation systems and so on. And this is something that we're building for the streamer marketplace, but it's always good to have many different data sources if it's possible in the use case. Sometimes you just have one, and then you can maybe only rely on, you know, things like the identity of the producer of that data. So it's an interesting field.
Cool. So thank you to all the panelists for sharing their thoughts, and to the audience for the attention. Thanks.
Thanks for joining.